Hello. Welcome to this Instagram Live here at Ivester Contemporary. This is take 2 of the Instagram Live right now. My name is Kristen Osborne, and I am the gallery assistant here at Ivester Contemporary, coming to you in place of Kevin. For today's artist chat, we are going to be talking to the incredible Denise Prince about her current show that you can see behind me and around me, the Conceptual Still Life. So I am going to go ahead and turn you all around and show you some of Denise's amazing work while I add her to this chat. And we will hope that it works. Here we go. And hopefully she will be with us shortly. Thank you all so much for joining today. This is the final week of the Conceptual Still Life here at Ivester Contemporary. And we're so excited. I'm hoping that we'll be able to get Denise into the chat very soon. All right, so let's see. Taking 2. Thank you all for your patience. Technology, as always, is a joy to behold. Let's see here. Okay, we might have technology troubleshoot part 2 coming at you. Okay. I am going to thank you all so much again. Let's see. Oh, okay. This might work this time. Here we go. Accept. Yay, Denise. Hello.
Hi.
We did it.
Yeah. Finally, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining. I'm so excited to be chatting with you right now.
Me too.
Yeah, how are you doing?
I'm well. How are you? I wish I was there in the gallery with you. It looks very refreshing.
I'm good. I know it is very refreshing, and it's so awesome to be surrounded by your work right now. It's been such a joy to have it on the walls.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So just to kick it off, I've mentioned that this is the Conceptual Still Life, that the show is running through the week. But can you tell us a little bit about, in your own words, what you were thinking about, how you created the show, and, just an introduction to you and your work?
Sure. Again, I'm sure you've said, my name's Denise
Yes.
Prince. I've been an artist here in Austin for about 19 years, maybe 20. I went to Cal Arts in LA and loved it. It was a very conceptual art school, which was less about teaching you how to do things and how to understand meaning and think about what the meaning in the work. So I feel like that's always shaped who I am as an artist. And I feel like that's very reflected in the pieces. They're very much taking on a traditional form, the still life, but they're bringing in all other sorts of references from delightful, ridiculous, unappealing, playful. I really, I have a love of the Platonic ideal, but I also, traditional beauty. And yet I feel like these days it's so interesting that we have such room to make new ideas about beauty and fantasy and bring our own visions to it. So I felt like it was just really an update on the still life and pushed to a level for the most part that surpasses the real, such that it was really clear that what was shown were fantastical visions rather than a depiction of reality, because we have a real craving for fantasy, and when we entertain, especially, there can be a real sense of play and performance, and I really believe that is the way that as adults we can extend the world of childhood into being an adult, and have that sense of delight that we share with others around a table and around a meal and around pretends. So I was really trying to be as heavily pretend and pleasurable as I can while having other aspects all over the place.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I feel like that is just like coming through so much in this show, and I love it. And so could you speak a little bit actually to the process as we look at these pieces? These were real items at, at one time before they were in the photograph. Can you tell us about
Yeah.
how you compose those still lifes, the collaboration of, having prepared food and assembled food and floral arrangements, and just how that worked in your process?
Absolutely. When I was preparing for the show, I knew I had, a number of months to get ready. And there were some pieces that I have been working on independently. And then a friend of mine, a very talented woman named Rachel Lomas, who I've known for years, and she's really maybe the most talented person I know, and it's at cooking, and she's not trained. And she said that she was finally putting together a cookbook, and would I be interested in possibly collaborating, making conceptual still lifes to go on her book. And since I knew that the sky was the limit, has a great love of excess. I knew that it wasn't going to be illustrative. I mean, I love 1960s cookbooks and actually 100-year-old cookbooks. I love books on food and their sort of formats, but this wasn't meant to be anything like it. So in working with her, a few of these were composed as pieces that would go in her book, but I also, she has an assistant and co-conspirator named, oh my gosh, I'm going to blank on her name because I'm nervous. Christine Brown.
No worries.
Incredibly talented and has worked with Rachel for many years. And so working with her, as they were completely generous about the fact that I would say, I just have this vision about stacked cakes. I want cakes stacked, just vertical, smashed on top of each other. And then Christine just a couple hours later just hands me 6 of these beautiful cakes, these exquisite pieces that she's put flowers on. And I'm the only one who could fit in the bathroom, so I just start stacking them, and I tear off a piece of one, handing me these gelatin things that we'd used for another shot, and these funny, they're like brittle, they're like sugar brittle things, and she's handing me those things in through the doorway, so I'm stacking them up, and so it was really the best collaboration I've ever experienced, because it was play and it was high level, and they're so talented, and yet they let me have complete freedom as well. So I felt very free to do as I pleased, and they're to satisfy my, visions just as I was there to satisfy theirs. So there's a lot of overlap. Of course, there's a few pieces. Probably maybe half or more are just pieces that I've made on my own, and sometimes not even at the same time as that collaboration. But that's work we were doing in the last several months. So.
Yeah, that is awesome. And that has been something that's come up, this idea of, the influence of vintage cookbooks, the influence of like child's play, all of that is so exciting. One piece that kind of stands out from that, which you sort of are beautifully transitioning us towards, is this piece, Tarnished Heels. And I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about this, because it's got, a human subject in it, as opposed to like a food or a floral.
Yes, I do have, because of my experience with psychoanalysis, a very clear understanding that we communicate as objects. Because we have language, humans present each other and read others as objects, and we can only do that. It's a funny, limiting thing because of the fact that we use language. And so I have this obsession. So I felt as though a person can, because of the way we present ourselves, could in fact be a part of a still life, because we do present ourselves to be seen. And especially, as a woman, I think it's Berger, who's saying that, and it's true for all people, but I think especially for women, that there is no moment at which you are not aware of being seen. And so this piece is very much about, elements of beauty. This was sort of set up as this sort of funny little imaginary advertisement for pantyhose I was doing just in my own. And yet these shoes that I have, those orange heels or gold heels that I pulled out, they're so old. I love them so much. They are sort of destroyed. And I loved, the fact that even though they're gorgeous, they're very, there's just dirt, and they're just cracked. They're just a disaster. And I love the way in which, for me, it really started to speak about, there's the ways we'd like to present ourselves, and then there's all the realities of the world that bring to bear. So when I was doing that photograph, you could see all over the ground is that dusty stuff, little pieces of that plant that she's holding, and honestly, that stuff just rained down, no
Wow.
matter what you did. And so the set was, originally supposed to just be pink, but I loved the just sort of beauty of the somewhat disaster and just the difficulty of creating beauty. I will say that anyone, I'm sure, who's ever tried to make something beautiful, there are things that your eye expects that you can't always fulfill. And it's very difficult to do something that seems larger than life. It's not something you can have gorgeous flowers, but to arrange them in a way that makes them sing, it's I liked the vision of those heels with all of the sort of reality that is behind our attention towards creating beauty, very present.
Right. Right. Well, and something that you just said reminded me of this piece here with this floral arrangement, which is, I feel like at one point you asked, like, how do I capture the beauty of live flowers or flowers that were alive? And
Yes.
thinking about putting that into this idea of still life. I would love if you could share a little bit about that part of your thinking.
Sure. That one, is somewhat Rembrandt-esque, of course. I really wanted to try to be playful with the traditions of, still life and classical painting. And yes, you're right. I was at the flower market one day and they had just gotten a shipment of peony and other flowers. And I was so bowled over that I bought a bunch and these gorgeous irises. It was just stunning how gorgeous they were. So I brought them home and I worked for hours to try to photograph them, and I couldn't make them beautiful. I couldn't do it. Finally, I put that light way in the back, coming the wrong way, and I made it very, very dark, and suddenly it read somewhat like a Rembrandt. I tried it with a bright light. I tried it with a sort of shiny white background. I tried all these different things, and for me, it was so fun to kind of, it is, again, like I say, it's just because our eye understands what an old master painting looks like inherently. Like that is just the most clear reference to an old master painting. I mean, it would be undeniable to anyone who saw it. And, I felt like the being a woman and making it, and also,
Mm-hmm.
the kind of crazy, delightful yellow flower that I really hit with the light. And also just
Yeah.
that sort of stretch to kind of see, like, honestly, those flowers were so beautiful. And here there's just a little bit of a veil of darkness that
Mm-hmm.
slightly obscures it. So I mean, I think that it does in historical painting as well as here create that sense of desire to which I think is one of the things that really trigger a sensation of pleasure, which is something that points towards beauty.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that even as I'm showing it, like hearing all of that, it's so rich and exciting. And as I'm trying to show it in this Instagram live, it's like we're catching reflections, which reminded me of just the shiny quality of how these are displayed and how they're being shown in the gallery. And can you speak a little bit to how that kind of like sleek contemporary feel of these mounted pictures, like how that is part of the work as well?
Absolutely. I have always worked in a commercial language. So my, almost like advertisement. So having things that, sort of could or should be paintings instead be photographs where what you're seeing is actual. And as you mentioned before, like these were all set up and
Mm.
pushing things around inch by inch until it starts to till it starts to look right and yet a little bit not right. This one was really difficult, the one you're showing right now,
Mm-hmm.
because getting her to be able to reach in and still see the things I wanted to see. I mean, I loved the way her arms got all sort of awkwardly placed in these, and to me, it made it much more like an experience of oh, I don't know, brought in a sort of sense of reality that and a sort of strangeness I loved. But I want, the fact, Holland Photo, I also must say, I must give them a massive shout out. Print, they're my lab. I've worked with them forever, and they work with me to get the print right, and then they mounted all of these for me behind plexi, so they're
Mm.
just glossy as a magazine page and yeah, you're catching a lot of reflection, but, in person, you see less of the reflection and more of
Hmm.
it sort of creates a real saturation of color and that kind of glossy coat over it also provides another layer of distance in which, like old masters painting, they work with all these glazes such that you're looking through all of the layers, and that is part of the effect that makes things seem so gorgeously real, is that the glazing layers you're looking through. So, this is a cheating, I suppose, version of that.
Hmm. No, but I mean, that is so cool. I think, Denise, you just have done an amazing job here. Is there anything else that feels like important information or things that you want to chat about in our
Oh, I mean, I could go on, that. So but since you're pointing at this piece,
Yeah.
I will simply say that I was very lucky to have the scarlet ibis, which is a rare species there, the bird, which looks a little flamingo-esque. Very talented artist, Dalton, made that. Leslie, gosh, I'm not going to pronounce her last name right. Made that piece. She's a very talented taxidermist and was very gracious to let me borrow it. And also to Rachel, who she and Christine both. Some of these, were styled by each of us. Some of them I was taking over it, but working with them, I must really just say hats off to them for the fact that their work is so clearly represented here.
Mm.
But I mean, I've got a lot more I could go on to, but I think that's probably a good brief
Yeah.
introduction.
Oh, Denise, it's amazing. And it's been such a pleasure chatting with you about this. Thank you again for taking the time this
Of
afternoon to
course.
talk. And so the show is up through the weekend, through October 23rd, for those who haven't gotten to
Mm-hmm.
catch it yet.
Yes,
We've just
that's
loved.
Saturday, right?
Would you say?
Saturday's the last day, right?
Yes,
Okay.
correct. Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me, and thanks for doing all your hard work to get that show up and keep it up and be there all the time.
Oh my goodness, thank you. It's just a joy to get to be around it and a joy to get to talk to you. And I am so appreciative to all who are watching this video as well. We're so happy to be sharing Denise Prince's amazing Conceptual Still Life. And I hope that you have a good rest of the day.
Thank you. You
All right.
too.
Thanks. Bye, Denise.